Om Namah Shivaya. Episode 8, Chapter 2, verses 12 to 30. Jnana Yoga, the knowledge of Brahman, the atma in all of us. In verse 11, the teaching began where Sri Krishna told Arjuna that men of wisdom do not grieve for those living or dead. Because when we understand everything from Atma's standpoint, there is no reason for grief. Asocyan anvasochastvam. The fact is, we cannot cry for Atma. Atma is not subject to death. So Atma is not the cause of our sorrow. It is our ignorance of taking our body, mind, senses to be real. Our body, mind, senses are like our vehicle, where our past karmic impressions are stored, and we take birth after birth to zero our karmic account and gain moksha. Atma's nature is absolute bliss. That is why men of wisdom do not grieve. However, we, due to our ignorance, experience sorrow when our desires are not fulfilled. Also, when our sense organs contact sense objects, we feel heat and cold, pain and pleasure. However, physical pain is not sorrow. Sorrow is something we built into a situation because of our particular way of thinking. Therefore, Sri Krishna says, take every situation cheerfully with a sense of humor, because these pairs of opposites cannot do anything to Atma. To be worthy of this knowledge, we must be karma yogis. We must do our duties without allowing any pleasant or unpleasant situation to disturb our minds. That is why Sri Krishna addresses Arjuna as Purusha Rishabha. Rishabha means a bull that stands out among a herd of cows due to its hump. And that Sri Krishna has chosen Arjuna to teach him the knowledge of Atma means Arjuna is a fit student. He is ready for this knowledge of Atma, to understand that his nature is absolute bliss. He is Satchit Ananda Atma. Verse 16 is a very important verse. It is the crux of the knowledge of Atma, which states that for that which is unreal, there is never a being. And for that which is real, there is never a non-being. Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha. And this ultimate truth is seen by the knowers of Atma. This verse tells us that only the first 5 tattvas, that is Shiva, Shakti, Sadashiva, Ishvara and Suddha Vidya, comprise the pure creation, where the Supreme Brahman has not been veiled. This pure consciousness is the only truth in this entire universe. It existed in the past, it exists now, and will continue to exist in the future. It is nirguna, that is not subject to the 3 gunas. It is beyond time and space. It is the cause for this entire creation. Whereas everything in this creation is unreal. It is mithya. Therefore, everything under Prakriti is mithya. It is subject to birth and death. So our body, mind, senses are subject to birth, existence and death. So when we look at ourselves from Atma's standpoint, we are indestructible. But from our body, mind, senses, we are subject to birth, existence and death. So Arjuna cannot kill Bhishma's atma or stop Bhishma's body from dying, except do his duty. Sri Krishna is not ordering Arjuna to fight, but do his duty, uphold dharma. Although as Atma we pervade the entire universe, we are free from the universe. We are self-evident, never born, never die. But this body, mind, senses are subject to birth, growth, metamorphosis, decline and death. To be able to convert this knowledge into wisdom, we must be sarva karma sannyasis, doing our righteous duties to purify our mind without attachment to the results. Even willing to give up this physical body, just like changing old clothes. Ishvara is the law of dharma that is governing the universe. And our prarabdha karma determines the quality of our life in this birth, which we are supposed to do and purify our mind. Arjuna was born a Kshatriya. His duty is to uphold dharma without fear of being killed or killing others. Because none of the 5 elements that constitute the entire creation can kill Atma. Earth element, which represents weapon, cannot cut Atma. Water cannot wet it, fire cannot burn it, air cannot dry it, or space cannot negate it. Knowing this, he should do his work without fear of the results. Even in our ignorance, we think we are this body, mind, senses, subject to birth and death. Still, there is no reason for grief, because for which death are we crying for? For that which is born, death is certain. For that which is dead, birth is certain. Life is like a moving arrow between birth and death. And in between, we live a mithya life due to Atma's presence. So why lament for this moving arrow? Atma is a wonder. To understand Atma is a wonder. Not to understand Atma is a wonder. Because Atma is never seen. Yet when this knowledge is converted to wisdom, it suddenly appears as something very striking. Even talking about Atma is a wonder, because being infinite, we cannot speak about it. This is the beauty and the joke of Atma. That is why Sri Krishna, by saying we are not subject to grief, means he created an elbow space to speak about Atma, which cannot be captured by words, until Arjuna realizes that absolute bliss is his nature. This is the wonder of the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. And in the last verse, Sri Krishna sums up the introduction to Jnana Yoga by stating what he said in verse 11, that Atma is not the cause of our sorrow. Atma is absolute bliss, never born, never die. But this body is subject to birth and death. And even when this body dies, we are not eligible for sorrow, because Atma is never killed. Sadness does not depend on what we have or do not have. It depends on our way of thinking. With this, we conclude the introduction to Jnana Yoga, and after a short break, we shall be introduced to Karma Yoga. Till then, Om Namah Shivaya.